Alright, Mr. Akins is going to take over today and do this. Yeah! Little lesson time. He's got it! You're going to be good. There you go. Do I need to do anything over there? He's got a great lesson plan. Do I need to touch anything? Like, I'll hit play? Is that playing right now? Okay, great. Alright, so everyone, if I can get your attention, let's give Mr. Akins a round of applause. Alright. Alright, so we're going to continue on our chapter for 22. We will be moving into chapter 23. Okay, perfect.
Alright guys, when we start this lesson, I do want to go over a couple quick terms. One of them you already recognize for sure. And while you guys are writing this down, you guys are seniors. I know you guys are going to be out of here in a few months going on to either higher education or into the workforce. So I wanted to give you guys a quick chance to take notes in your own way. So we have these definitions up here on the board, but I don't want you to write them down word for word. I want you to write them down in your own words. How would you write this down so that you can understand it when you go back and study it later? So our first term here is dramatic irony, which is a literary device by which the author or reader's understanding of events or individuals in a work surpasses that of its characters. Now, can any of you guys think of any moments of dramatic irony that have already happened in Frankenstein? It's times where like we've known more than the characters know.
Well, when the trial is happening and they're assuming it's Victor, but we know it's Adam.
Yeah, when the trial's happening, we know that it wasn't Victor that did this. Like, only we and Victor know this. Everyone else in that story clearly thinks that it's someone else. Anything else you guys can think of?
It's like when we knew that Adam killed Henry because of the finger marks on the neck. Nobody else would know at the time, but except for us and Victor.
Right, we see the finger marks and they're described as the exact same way as the monster, as the creature, so that we are all aware that this is Adam's doing. But once again, no one else would know that because no one else saw the dead body of William. Secondly, we have hero-villain. This is one of your 10 Gothic literature elements. We have the hero-villain. The villain of the story who either poses as a hero at the beginning of the story or simply possesses enough heroic characteristics so that either the reader or other characters see the villain hero as more than a simple charlatan or bad guy. Now, we're going to talk about this more in a later lesson, but I'm sure you guys are realizing that we are building up to who the hero-villain is in Frankenstein, and arguably there are two of them. Do you guys guess who those two are? Victor and the creature, right? Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be building up that in a future lesson. So after reading chapter 22, who do you guys think Victor thinks the creature is threatening to kill next? Particularly with the I will see you on your wedding night. I want you guys to go into your groups for that, discuss. And why does Victor think this way? All right, we'll bring it back up here. So in your groups, what do you guys decide? Who does Victor think the three creatures threatening to kill? So you think Victor thinks that the creature's threatening to kill Elizabeth on his way there? Okay, what do you think?
We thought that just like thinking that the creature was gonna kill him because he keeps talking about like how this man is dead and like a good way to die. But then in one paragraph in chapter 22, it's like he talks from the future, saying that the monster blinded me to his real intentions, and then like kind of foreshadows to the fact that he's actually going to kill Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, right? I think that, you know, for all of Victor's faults, of which I'm sure you can agree there's several, I don't think he wants his friends and family to be in this much danger, right? I know that he keeps putting them in those situations, but I think that in the end, he doesn't want these people. And Elizabeth, I mean, we've seen it from chapter 1, right? He's very close with Elizabeth. He considers her like his. And if you had someone that you were that close to, that you've been childhood friends with your whole life, you're planning on getting married to them, would you want to put that person in harm's way? Like harm's way to the point where you know that they might end up dead? No, right? I do think Victor, in this case, thinks that it is him that's going to be targeted, right? Like on your wedding night, it'll be our final confrontation, it'll be over, right? But why does he think this way? Because I'm sure you guys have all been talking about it. All monsters, or all the creatures done up to this point, is like targeting Victor's friends and family, right? He actually hasn't gone after Victor yet, physically. So why do you guys think Victor thinks this way? Why do you think like he would think now the creature's going to target him?
I mean, throughout the story, we kind of see his selfish mindset. Like he brought up, like during Justine's trial, like he was just thinking about his own guilt and what he could actually do to just save Justine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a common theme throughout the story.
Yeah, okay, selfish mindset, I like that. To really further go into this, I'm going to take a quick detour with you guys. We're going to talk about this guy. Alright, who is Thanos? For those of you guys who haven't really kept up with it, I'm sure there's a few of y'all. He was like the big main antagonist in the Marvel Avengers saga, right? Ever since we've seen him, he's been threatening to kill half the life in the universe, which I'm sure you guys can agree, really bad. But we haven't really seen a lot of him up until Infinity War. He's been like either like a character who shows up for like 5 minutes, he ends up in like the post-credit scene. He has never really been the big bad. He's just someone that we've seen in the periphery. But like I said, that all changes with Infinity War. In Infinity War, he actually becomes like the protagonist. We see more of him and learn more about him than any other character in that movie. And he takes the role of the hero villain, right? He's very clearly the villain, but he has this like charisma and stuff that really have led a lot of people to really enjoy his character in this movie. And we can see he is very, very serious on this decision that he's going to kill half of all life, to the point where he's already sacrificed his adopted daughter in terms of these rules. And in this scene I'm about to show you, he finally explains why he feels that he needs to do this.
Much more of a Thanos.
They take it to Mars, Dad. This day extracts a heavy toll. Still, he accomplished his mission.
You may regret that. He brought you face to face with the master of the mystic arts.
Where do you think he brought you?
Let me guess. Your home?
It was. And it was beautiful. Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Genocide.
But random, dispassionate, fair to rich and poor alike. They called me a madman. And what I predicted came to pass.
Congratulations, you're a prophet
I'm a survivor.
who wants to murder trillions.
With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist, and I call that mercy.
And then what?
I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe. The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
I think you'll find our will equal.
Alright, so as you can see, he kind of showed it off a little bit in that clip. He has these things called the Infinity Stones. And once he gathers all 6, he'll basically become like this all-powerful, like godlike figure. And that's when he's going to like basically end half of all life in the universe. So, given that he has that all-powerful thing, do you think that he needs to kill half the universe? Like, is that something that is completely necessary in order to complete his goals of like ending overpopulation? Discuss in your groups, like if you can think of any other ways that he could have probably solved this with that much power.
He already has that much Yeah, so like he probably wants to like
Alright, so any of you guys have any ideas? Any new ways we could perhaps solve this issue?
I don't know how much power he actually has, but like in theory, he could like either double everything else, or maybe he could like form another planet and then move half the population onto that planet.
Alright, yeah, you could either create new, like, double all the resources you have, or you can move everyone onto a new planet. You're right. Once again, you have, like, basically all the power in the world. You can do whatever it is you want to do. Yeah, you can totally do that. Anything else you guys can think of? Well, we already came up with, like, a couple of good solutions, right? And this only took us, like, a couple of minutes. So why is it that he can't see that? Why is genocide of half the universe the only option in his mind?
Maybe he wants control. He feels better when he has control. Like, maybe he feels better that he has control.
Right, he has complete control. Let's think back to that clip, right? What happened to his first planet? When he came up with his solution, how did people react?
Like a madman, like wanting just to kill people.
Yeah, basically, they just saw him as a completely crazy madman, and eventually the issues that he was warning about ended up coming to light. So now let's think about it. He has all of the power in the world to basically rectify this solution. Given all the traumatic things he's gone through, and given like how focused he's been on this goal, do you guys think that his vision is completely wide, looking for other possibilities? Or do you think it's completely focused on the one thing that failed him the first time? It's completely focused, right? He's got tunnel vision. So, thinking of that, let's go back to Victor. In chapter 22, what blinds Victor to the possibility that Elizabeth might also be in danger?
He says he'll be on the wedding night, like when like there's a romance involved, so pretty much like another.
Right. When he says wedding night, Victor instantly thinks to himself, right? He thinks like, this is going to be where we have our final conflict.
I think maybe self-hatred kind of blinds him it because he like developed all these like traumatic things in the creature's life. So he ultimately just like is obsessed with the fact that it's all his responsibility. So of course he's gonna take that creature's life and destroy him.
Yeah, that sounds great. You know, self-hatred is what's leading to this, and therefore he thinks that the consequences should fall on him. What do you think the consequences will be? Who do you think is going to, because, I mean, let's be honest, it's clearly leading up, someone's going to have to die. Who do you think might be the one to face these consequences?
I think it's gonna be Elizabeth.
All right, we have Elizabeth.
I agree with him. But,
Okay.
I think it's gonna like, I think the monkey's gonna like Victor suffer in some kind of way. Some more. Trying to get his revenge story.
All right, yeah. Anyone else? All right, well, we'll see what's going to happen, right? We're going to right now read chapter 23 in class, and I want you guys to take notes while we're reading. Find evidence of Victor's stubbornness and blindness, and find the consequences of this stubbornness and blindness. All right.
September. Chapter 6. It was 8 o'clock when we landed. We walked for a short time on the shore, enjoying the transitory light, and then retired to the inn and contemplated the lovely scene of waters, woods, and mountains obscured in darkness, yet still displaying their black outlines. The wind, which had fallen in the south, now rose with great violence in the west. The moon had reached her summit in the heavens and was beginning to descend. The clouds swept across it swifter than the flight of the vulture and dimmed her rays, while the lake reflected the scene of the busy heavens, rendered still busier by the restless waves that were beginning to rise. Suddenly a heavy storm of rain descended. I had been calm during the day, but so soon as night obscured the shape of objects, 1,000 fears arose in my mind. I was anxious and watchful, while my right hand grasped a pistol which was hidden in my bosom. Every sound terrified me, but I resolved that I would sell my life dearly, and not shrink from the conflict until my own life or that of my adversary was extinguished. Elizabeth observed my agitation for some time in timid and fearful silence. But there was something in my glance which communicated terror to her, and trembling she asked, "What is it that agitates you, my dear Victor? What is it you fear?" "Oh, peace, peace, my love," replied I, "this night, and all will be safe. But this night is dreadful, very dreadful." I passed an hour in this state of mind, when suddenly I reflected how fearful the combat which I momentarily expected would be to my wife, and I earnestly entreated her to retire, resolving not to join her until I had obtained some knowledge as to the situation of my enemy. She left me, and I continued some time walking up and down the passages of the house and inspecting every corner that might afford a retreat to my adversary. But I discovered no trace of him, and was beginning to conjecture that some fortunate chance had intervened to prevent the execution of his menaces, when suddenly I heard a shrill and dreadful scream. It came from the room into which Elizabeth had retired. As I heard it, the whole truth rushed into my mind. My arms dropped, the motion of every muscle and fiber was suspended. I could feel the blood trickling in my veins and tingling in the extremities of my limbs. This state lasted but for an instant. The scream was repeated, and I rushed into the room. Great God, why did I not then expire? Why am I here to relate the destruction of the best hope and the purest creature of earth? She was there, lifeless and inanimate, thrown across the bed, her head hanging down and her pale and distorted features half covered by her hair. Everywhere I turn, I see the same figure, her bloodless arms and relaxed form flung by the murderer on its bridal bier. Could I behold this and live? Alas, life is obstinate and clings closest to where it is most hated. For a moment only did I lose recollection. I fell senseless on the ground. When I recovered, I found myself surrounded by the people of the inn. Their countenances expressed a breathless terror, but the horror of others appeared only as a mockery, a shadow of the feelings that oppressed me. I escaped from them to the room where lay the body of Elizabeth, my love, my wife, so lately living, so dear, so worthy. She had been moved from the posture in which I had first beheld her, and now, as she lay, her head